everyone. My name is Joy King, and I am a public diplomacy officer at the U.S. Mission to India. On behalf of the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi, its 4 consulates, and the American Center in New Delhi, I thank you for joining us today. The American Center New Delhi is the U.S. Embassy's public engagement space, where we connect with Indian citizens to share U.S. culture and promote our shared democratic values. We are home to the Nexus Startup Incubator and the iHub, a specialized reference and research facility that offers access to comprehensive information on the United States, its people, and its policies. We host many events at the American Center, such as film screenings, art exhibitions, panel discussions, workshops, and cultural performances. Due to COVID-19, however, we are currently hosting all of these events virtually here on the American Center New Delhi Facebook page. We look forward to inviting you back to the American Center for in-person events as soon as we can. Today, I'd like to welcome you all to Josh-e-Umang, a year-long series of performing arts we're presenting in association with the Katoom Foundation. This series aims to start conversations on issues important to all of us through artistic performances, including dance, music, and poetry. Through art, we share with you our great enthusiasm for celebrating diversity, inclusivity, and creativity. Please submit any questions you may have for our guests in the comment section, and we will try to have them answered in the Q&A session. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoy today's event.
Thank you, Joy. Hello, everyone. My name is Manjima, and I would also like to welcome you to today's performance. I'm pleased to announce that today we have a wonderful performance by the students of the Dramatic Society of Lady Shri College for Women. They will be performing a work by the American writer Stephen Chbosky. Can you guess what it might be? That's right, it's The Perks of Being a Wallflower. A much loved coming-of-age young adult novel and a New York Times bestseller, The Perks of Being a Wallflower was made into a movie in 2012. It's about a young, shy boy who learns to overcome trauma and tries to find his way in the world. The members of the Dramatic Society of Lady Shri College for Women will be doing a very different dramatized reading of excerpts from this book. The Dramatic Society of Lady Shri College has a hoary past. It was established 60 years ago and since then has been very, very active. It's considered to be one of the best collegiate dramatic societies. It is also the largest society of this well-beloved and very prestigious college. The dramatized reading will be done with a very unique approach with Lady Shri Ram's own special touch, taking virtual performances to a new direction. Since this book deals with a number of sensitive issues, we must advise viewer discretion, and we would request that this viewership be restricted to adults only. And now, I know you're all eagerly waiting for the performance to start. So I'll just quickly remind you, don't forget to share your thoughts, comments, likes, hearts, and questions with us during the performance. We will have a live question and answer session after the performance. And if you have a question, we'd love to hear it. We will take it to the performers to answer it during the session. Well, that's enough for me. Let's move on and watch this beautiful performance.
Dear friend, I'm writing to you because she said you listen and understand. Please don't try to figure out who she is, because then you might figure out who I am, and I really don't want you to do that. I just need to know that someone out there listens and understands. I need to know that these people exist. I will call people by different names or generic names because I don't want you to find me. So, this is my life, and I want you to know that I'm both happy and sad, and I'm still trying to figure out how that could be. I try to think of my family as a reason for me being this way, especially after my friend Michael stopped going to school one day last spring and we heard,
"Boys and girls, I regret to inform you that one of our students has passed on."
At the guidance counselor sessions, they asked the few of us who actually liked Michael to say a few words.
What do you think, Charlie?
Well, I think that Michael was a nice guy and I don't understand why he did it. As much as I feel sad, I think that not knowing is what really bothers me. I never did stop crying. The counselor said that he suspected that Michael had problems at home and didn't feel like he had anyone to talk to. That's maybe why he felt all alone and killed himself. Then I started screaming at the guidance counselor that Michael could have talked to me, and I started crying even harder. Maybe it was problems at home. I wish I knew. It might make me miss him more clearly. It might have made sad sense. The last time I had a friend over to dinner was Michael last year. We had tacos. The really great part was that Michael stayed over to sleep. Michael looked into all the windows. It was dark and quiet. We just kept walking. Michael had a way of walking quiet sometimes. One thing I do know is that it makes me wonder if I have problems at home. But it seems to me that a lot of other people have it a lot worse. I don't think there's a favorite kid in our family. There are 3 of us and I'm the youngest. My brother is the oldest. He's a very good football player and likes his car. My sister is very pretty and mean to boys and she's in the middle. I get straight A's now like my sister and that is why they leave me alone. My mom cries a lot during TV programs. My dad works a lot and is an honest man. My aunt Helen was my favorite person in the whole world. She was my mom's sister. My aunt Helen lived with the family for the last few years of her life because something very bad happened to her. It wasn't until much later that my mom had a few glasses of white wine and told me what had happened to her sister. Some people really do have it a lot worse than I do. The reason I wrote this letter is because I start high school tomorrow and I'm really afraid of going. I have finished To Kill a Mockingbird. It is now my favorite book of all time. But then again, I always think that until I read another book. My advanced English teacher asked me to call him Bill when we're not in class, and he gave me another book to read. He says I have great skill at reading and understanding language. There's a guy in shop class named Nothing. I'm not kidding. The name just stuck.
Listen, you either call me Patrick or you call me Nothing.
Nothing was there at the football game, and he was one of the few people who was not an adult that was actually watching the game. I mean, really watching the game. I listened to Nothing yell at the field, and I listened to his play-by-play analysis. But it wasn't until we went to the big boy.
Hey, you're in my shop class. And I'm Patrick and this is Sam.
He pointed to a very pretty girl next to him.
Hey Charlie.
They both told me to have a seat and they both seemed to mean it, so I took a seat. Maybe I should call Nothing Patrick from now on, since that is how he introduced himself and that is what Sam calls him. Incidentally, Sam has brown hair and very, very pretty eyes. Patrick and Sam didn't just throw around inside jokes and make me struggle to keep up. Not at all. They asked me questions.
How old are you, Charlie?
15.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
I don't know just yet.
What's your favorite band?
I think maybe the Smiths because I love their song Asleep. But I'm not really sure one way or the other because I don't know any other songs by them too well.
What's your favorite movie?
I don't know really. They're all the same to me.
What's your favorite book?
This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Why?
Because it was the last one I read. This made them laugh because they knew I meant it honest, not show off. And they told me their favorites and we sat quiet. They looked really happy together. A good kind of happy. I thought Sam was very pretty and nice. How long have you been going out? What's so funny?
We're actually stepbrother and sister.
I was very happy to know that because I would really like to ask Sam on a date someday. I really would. She's so nice. Bill looked at me looking at people, and after class he asked me what I was thinking about, and I told him.
Do you always think this much, Charlie?
Is that bad? I just wanted someone to tell me the truth.
Not necessarily. It's just that sometimes people use thoughts to not participate in life.
Is that bad?
Yes.
I think I participate though. Don't you think I am?
Well, are you going on dates?
Well, I don't have a car, and even if I did, I can't drive because I'm 15. And anyway, I haven't met a girl I like except for Sam, but I'm too young for her and she would always have to drive, which I don't think is fair. Slowly, he got to problems at home. And I told him about the boy who makes mixtapes hitting my sister because my sister only told me not to tell my mom or dad about it. So I figured I could tell Bill. He got this very serious look on his face after I told him, and he said something to me I don't think I will ever forget this semester, or ever.
Charlie, we accept the love we think we deserve.
When I finally got home, my sister was sitting on a chair. My mom and my dad were standing in front of her. And I knew that Bill had called home and told them. And I felt terrible. It was all my fault. My sister then said it was all her fault, that she was provoking him, but my dad said it was no excuse.
But I love him.
No, you don't.
I hate you.
No, you don't.
He's my whole world.
Don't ever say that about anyone again. Not even me.
There's a feeling that I had Friday night after the homecoming game that I don't know if I will ever be able to describe, except to say that it is warm. Sam and Patrick drove me to the party that night, and I sat in the middle of Sam's pickup truck. Sam told Patrick to find a station on the radio, and he kept getting commercials. And he finally found this really amazing song about this boy, and we got all quiet. I feel infinite. And Sam and Patrick looked at me like I said the greatest thing they ever heard. Because the song was that great and because we all really paid attention to it. 5 minutes of a lifetime were truly spent and we felt young. In a good way. Sam started laughing. Patrick started laughing. I started laughing. And in that moment, I swear we were infinite.
Sail through the changing ocean tides. Can I handle the seasons of my life?
We got to the house where the party was, and Patrick did this secret knock.
Bob.
The party was in the basement of this house. The room was quite smoky and the kids were much older. Everyone was very friendly to me and asked me a lot of questions about myself.
Hey! Hey, would you like a brownie?
Yeah, thank you.
How do you feel, Charlie?
Light?
Are you seeing anything, Charlie?
Light?
Are you thirsty? What would you like to drink?
A milkshake? And everyone in the room except Sam erupted in laughter. I heard a noise in the room where we left our coats. I opened the door and I saw Patrick kissing Brad. He heard me in the door and turned around.
Is that you, Charlie? Listen, Charlie. Brad doesn't want people to know. I need you to promise me that you won't tell this to anyone. It will be our little secret, okay?
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Patrick came downstairs. Patrick pointed at me and said,
He's something, isn't he?
Patrick then said something I don't think I'll ever forget.
He's a wallflower.
And the whole room nodded their head.
He sees things. He keeps quiet about them. He understands. To Charlie.
One thing I remember is that kids used to play a game. What you would do is take a football or something, and one person would have it, and all the other kids would try to tackle that kid. This could go on for hours. The kids called the game Smear the Queer. I didn't really think about what that means until now. When they were both juniors, Patrick and Brad were at a party together with the rest of the popular kids. When they ran out of small talk, they just looked at each other and they ended up fooling around. Patrick said it was like the weight of the whole world left both their shoulders. But Monday in school, Brad kept saying the same thing. Man, I was so wasted. I don't remember a thing. He even said it to Patrick. That Friday, they ended up fooling around again. And Monday in school, Brad did the same thing. This went on for 7 months. Brad's parents never did figure out. I asked Patrick if he felt sad that he had to keep it a secret, and Patrick just said that
I wasn't sad because at least now Brad doesn't have to get drunk to laugh.
Dear friend, I have decided that maybe I want to write when I grow up. I just don't know what I would write. I did start working for a fanzine called Punk Rocky. It's this Xerox magazine about punk rock. The thing is that Sam is now going out with a boy named Craig. He likes to take photographs, and I've seen a few of them, and they're very good. There's this one photograph of Sam that is just beautiful. If you listen to the song Asleep, and you think about those pretty weather days that make you remember things, and you think about the prettiest eyes you've known, and you cry and the person holds you back, then I think you will see the photograph. I want Sam to stop liking Craig. Now, I guess maybe you think that's because I'm jealous of him. I'm not, honest. It's just that Craig doesn't really listen to her when she talks. And I don't mean that he's a bad guy, because he's not. It's just that he always looks distracted. It's like he would take a photograph of Sam and the photograph would be beautiful. And he would think that the reason the photograph was beautiful was because of how he took it. If I took it, I would know that the only reason it's beautiful is because of Sam. I just think it's bad when a boy looks at a girl and thinks that the way he sees the girl is better than the girl actually is. And I think it's bad when the most honest way a boy can look at a girl is through a camera.
Sing me to sleep, sing me to sleep. I'm tired and I wanna go to bed.
Dear friend, have you ever heard of Secret Santa? When I revealed that I was Patrick's Secret Santa, everyone laughed because everyone knew. And Patrick did his best impersonation of being surprised, which was nice of him. The first gift? A mixtape. It's called One Winter. Then Patrick came out with 3 tubes of Pringles and a suit coat. And he walked up to me and he said that all the great writers used to wear suits all the time. I think it was the first time in my life I ever felt like I looked good. Do you know what I mean? Then everyone asked what my last gift was. And I told them it was a poem I read a long time ago. It was a poem that Michael made a copy of for me. And I've read it 1,000 times since because I don't know who wrote it. And I don't know how old the person was, but I know that I want to know him or her. I want to know that this person is okay. Last came Sam. I told Sam that the present I gave her was given to me by my Aunt Helen. It was an old 45 record that had the Beatles song Something. I decided then when I met someone I thought was as beautiful as the song, I should give it to that person. She took me to her room and stood me in front of her dresser looking at an old typewriter with a fresh ribbon. She told me about the first time she was kissed. She told me that it was one of her dad's friends. She was 7, and she started to cry and she said something that I won't forget. Ever.
Charlie, I know that I like cake. And I know that I told you not to think of me like that. And I know I told you that we can't be together like that. But I want you to forget all of those things for a moment, okay?
Okay.
I want the first person to kiss you, to love you, okay?
Okay. She was crying harder, and I was too, because when I hear something like that, I just can't help it. And she kissed me. It was the kind of kiss that I could never tell my friends about out loud. It was the kind of kiss that made me know that I was never so happy in my whole life.
Attracts me like no other lover. Something in the way she pulls me. I don't wanna leave her now. You know I believe in how.
Dear friend, I'm really glad that Christmas and my birthday are soon, because that means they will be over soon, because I can already feel myself going to a bad place I used to go. It's kind of like when you look at yourself in the mirror and you say your name and it gets to a point where none of it seems real. Well, sometimes I can do that, but I don't need an hour in front of a mirror. It happens very fast and things start to slip away. And I just open my eyes and I see nothing. And then I start to breathe really hard trying to see something, but I can't. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it scares me. Probably shouldn't be writing about this too much because it brings it up too much, it makes me think too much, and I'm trying to participate. It's just hard because Sam and Patrick are in the Grand Canyon. Bill gave me one book to read over the break. It's The Catcher in the Rye. It was Bill's favorite book when he was my age. He said it was the kind of book you made your own. I don't know how I feel about it just yet, but it does seem appropriate to this time. The first time I drove alone was to see my Aunt Helen. It was the first time I ever went to see her without, at least my mom. I know that my Aunt Helen would still be alive today if she had just bought me one present like everybody else. I miss her terribly. I don't know if you've ever felt like that you just wanted to sleep for 1,000 years, or just not exist, or just not be aware that you exist, or something like that. I think wanting that is very morbid, but I want it when I get like this. That's why I'm trying not to think. I just want it all to stop spinning. If this gets any worse, I might have to go back to the doctor. It's getting that bad again. Once, on a yellow piece of paper with green lines, he wrote a poem and he called it Chops, because that was the name of his dog, and that's what it was all about. And his teacher gave him an A and a gold star, and his mother hung it on the kitchen door and read it to his aunts. That was the year Father Tracy took all the kids to the zoo, and he let them sing on the bus. And his little sister was born, with tiny toenails and no hair. And his mother and father kissed a lot. And the girl around the corner sent him a Valentine signed with a row of X's. And he had to ask his father what the X's meant. And his father always tucked him in bed at night and was always there to do it. Once, on a piece of white paper with blue lines, he wrote a poem, and he called it Autumn, because that was the name of the season, and that's what it was all about. And his teacher gave him an A and asked him to write more clearly. And the kids told him that Father Tracy smoked cigars and left butts on the pews. And sometimes they would burn holes. That was the year his sister got glasses, with thick lenses and black frames, and the girl around the corner laughed when he asked her to go see Santa Claus. And the kids told him why his mother and father kissed a lot, and his father never tucked him in bed at night, and his father got mad when he cried for him to do it. Once, on a paper torn from his notebook, he wrote a poem and he called it Innocence, a question, because that was the question about his girl, and that's what it was all about. And his professor gave him an A and a strange, steady look. And his mother never hung it on the kitchen door because he never showed her. That was the year that Father Tracy died. And he forgot how the end of the Apostles' Creed went. And he caught his sister making out on the back porch. And his mother and father never kissed or even talked. And the girl around the corner wore too much makeup that made him cough when he kissed her. But he kissed her anyway because that was the thing to do. And at 3 a.m., he tucked himself into bed, his father snoring soundly. That's why on the back of a brown paper bag, he tried another poem and he called it Absolutely Nothing. Because that's what it was really all about. And he gave himself an A and a slash on each damned wrist, and he hung it on the bathroom door because this time he didn't think he could reach the kitchen. That was the poem that I read for Patrick. Bob said it was some kid's suicide note. For the first time in my life, I understand the end of that poem, and I never wanted to. You have to believe me. Dear friend, I'm sorry for that last letter. To tell you the truth, I don't really remember much of it. I have a date for the Sadie Hawkins dance. In case you didn't have one of those, it's the dance where the girl asks the boy. In my case, the girl is Mary Elizabeth and the boy is me. Can you believe it? Ever since that night with Mary Elizabeth, everything has been different. Sam kept saying,
I can't believe I didn't think of it before. You guys are great together.
I think Mary Elizabeth thinks so too, because she's been acting completely differently. She's nice all the time, but it doesn't feel right. I don't know how to describe it, and I don't know why I'm saying all this. I just wish Mary Elizabeth would ask me questions other than what's up. Dear friend, I have made a terrible mess of things. I really have. I feel terrible about it. Craig invited all of us to his apartment to drink wine and listen to the White Album. Patrick gave me a dare.
Alright, spin the bottle. Charlie. Kiss the prettiest girl in the room on the lips.
That's when I chose to be honest. In retrospect, I probably could not have picked a worse time. The silence started after I stood up, since Mary Elizabeth was sitting right next to me. By the time I had knelt down in front of Sam and kissed her, the silence was unbearable.
Well, isn't this awkward?
I felt terrible, just terrible. I said that I should go back inside and apologize. Patrick said the best thing I could do is just stay away for a while. Dear friend, Patrick did call me, but all he said was that Craig got really angry at Sam about me, and I should keep staying away until things got clear. I stared at my reflection and the trees behind it for a long time. Not thinking anything, not feeling anything, not hearing the record. For hours. Something really is wrong with me, and I don't know what it is. I know that I brought this all on myself. I know that I deserve this. I'd do anything not to be this way. I'd do anything to make it up to everyone. I just wish that God, or my parents, or Sam, or my sister, or someone would just tell me what's wrong with me. Just tell me how to be different in a way that makes sense. To make this all go away and disappear. I know that's wrong because it's my responsibility, and I know that things get worse before they get better because that's what my psychiatrist says, but this is a worse that feels too big. Dear friend, it's hard too because we've started school again and I can't go to the places where I used to go and it can't be like it was. And I wasn't ready to say goodbye just yet. To tell you the truth, I've just been avoiding everything. I can tell you one thing that happened. I was sitting in the shopping mall because that's where I go lately. I saw other people there. Old men sitting alone, young girls with blue eyeshadow and awkward jaws, little kids who looked tired, fathers in nice coats who looked even more tired, kids working behind the counters of the food places who looked like they hadn't had the will to live for hours. The machines kept opening and closing, the people kept giving money and getting their change, and it all felt very unsettling to me. The only person I've really talked to in the last 2 weeks was Susan, the girl who used to go with Michael back in middle school when she had braces. I just looked at Susan. Do you ever miss him? I didn't say it mean or accusingly. I just wanted to know if anybody else remembered Michael. Susan was at a loss. She didn't know what to do. These were the first words we had spoken since the end of last year. At first I thought her blank expression was the result of surprise, but after it didn't go away for a long while, I knew that it wasn't. It suddenly dawned on me that if Michael was still around, Susan probably wouldn't be going out with him anymore. Because things change and friends leave and life doesn't stop for anybody. I'm sorry I bothered you, Susan. I'm just having a tough time, that's all. Have a good one, I said, and I walked away. I drove home listening to some of the songs we listened to those times when we were infinite. And I pretended they were in the car with me. I even talked out loud. I told Patrick how I thought he was great. I asked Sam about Craig. But then I stopped because it started to make me too sad. Dear friend, on Thursday, something really terrible happened.
What did you call me?
Brad looked up at Patrick and said softer and meaner than the last time. Patrick threw the first punch. The fight was hard. It was pretty even until Brad's buddies got involved and it became 5-on-1. That's when I got involved. I think anyone who knew me might have been frightened or confused. Except maybe my brother. He taught me what to do in these situations. I looked down at the ground and I saw Patrick. His face was pretty messed up and he was crying. I helped him to his feet and then I looked at Brad. All I said was, "If you ever do this again, I'll tell everyone. And if that doesn't work, I'll blind you." When I got out of detention that day, Sam was waiting for me.
So I've heard you're some ninja or something, huh? Charlie is so stupid sometimes, do you know that?
Yeah, I really do. So, we can be friends now?
Of course.
I started to cry again because she was my friend again, and that was enough for me. Dear friend, I've been spending a lot of time with Patrick these days. I really haven't said much. I just kind of listen and nod because Patrick needs to talk.
I'll tell you something, Charlie. I feel good. You know what I mean? Like, really good. It's like I don't have to pretend anymore. I'm free or something. I'm going away to college. Things will be different there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Thanks, Charlie.
Sure.
No, I mean in the cafeteria.
Oh, sure. After that, it was quiet, and he moved his face to mine, and he kissed me. A real kiss. Then he pulled away real slow.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm really sorry.
No, really, it was okay. So he said thanks and hugged me again. Then he started crying. Then he started talking about Brad, and I just let him because That's what friends are for. Dear friend, the school year is just about over. But the seniors, like my sister and Sam and Patrick, only have a couple of weeks. So by this time, everyone has finally figured out which schools he or she is going to next year. I told my psychiatrist about the book, and Bill, and about Sam and Patrick and all their colleges, but he just keeps asking me questions about when I was younger. The thing is, I feel that I'm just repeating the same memories to him. I don't know. He says it's important. I guess we'll have to see. Dear friend, I wanted to tell you about us running. There was this beautiful sunset, and there was this hill. The hill up to the 18th green where Patrick and I spit wine from laughing. And just a few hours before, Sam and Patrick and everyone I love and know had their last day of high school ever. And I was happy because they were happy. And then Patrick started running after the sunset, and Sam immediately followed him. And I saw them in silhouette, running after the sun. Then I started running, and everything was as good as it could be. Dear friend, it was hard walking up the steps to Bill's townhouse that afternoon. His girlfriend was wearing sandals and a nice flowered dress. They looked very happy together, and I was glad for Bill. They had a really nice collection of jazz records, and they kept playing them all through lunch. After a while, they broke open a bottle of white wine and gave me another ginger ale. Then we started talking. Bill asked me about the fountainhead, and I told him, making sure that I was a filter. Then he asked me about how I liked my first year of high school, and I told him, making sure that I included all the stories in which I participated. Then he asked me about girls, and I told him how I really loved Sam, and how I wondered what the lady who wrote The Fountainhead would say about how I came to realize that I loved her. After I finished, Bill got very quiet. He cleared his throat.
Lee, I want to thank you.
Why?
Because it has been a wonderful experience teaching you.
Oh, I'm glad. I didn't know what else to say. Then Bill took this really long pause, and his voice sounded like my dad when he wants to have a big talk.
Charlie, do you know why I gave you all that extra work?
I shook my head no. That look on his face, it made me quiet.
Charlie, do you know how smart you are?
I just shook my head no again. He was talking for real. It was strange.
Charlie, you are one of the most gifted people I have ever known. And I don't mean in terms of my other students. I mean in terms of someone I have ever met. That's why I gave you the extra work. I was wondering if you were aware of that.
I guess so. I don't know. I felt really strange. I didn't know where this was coming from. I just wrote some essays.
Charlie, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable. I just want you to know that you are very special. And the only reason I'm telling you is that I don't know if anyone else ever has.
I looked up at him, and then I didn't feel strange. I felt like I wanted to cry. He was being so nice to me, and the way his girlfriend looked, I knew that this meant a lot to him, and I didn't know why it did.
So, when the school year ends and I'm not your teacher anymore, I want you to know that if you ever need anything, or want to know more about books, or want to show me anything you write or anything, you can always come to me as a friend. I do consider you as a friend, Charlie.
I started crying a little bit. I just remember wanting to hug him. But I've never done that before, and I guess Patrick and girls and family don't count. I didn't say anything for a while because I didn't know what to say. So finally, I just said, "You're the best teacher I've ever had."
Thank you.
And that was that. Bill didn't try to make sure that I would see him next year if I needed anything. He didn't ask me why I was crying. He just let me hear what he had to say in my own way and let things be. That was probably the best part. When I was driving home, I just thought about the word special. And I thought the last person who said that about me was my Aunt Helen. I was very grateful to have heard it again, because I guess we all forget sometimes. And I think everyone is special in their own way. I really do. Hello?
Charlie,
Sam!
when are you coming over? We'll be here until 7, then we'll call you from wherever we are.
Okay, Sam. Congratulations.
Thanks, Charlie. Bye.
Bye. I hung up the phone. Sam had told me they were going to a dance club downtown, so I loaded everyone's gifts in my trunk, climbed in the car, and drove away. After the dance club, I gave Patrick and Sam their presents. I even wrapped them up special. I gave Patrick On the Road, Naked Lunch, The Stranger, This Side of Paradise, Peter Pan, and a separate piece. I gave Sam To Kill a Mockingbird, The Catcher in the Rye, The Great Gatsby, Hamlet, Walden, and The Fountainhead. And I knew it meant a lot to them. I'm going to miss you all very much. I hope you have a great time at college. Dear friend, the night before Sam was going to leave made the whole week a blur. On the night before she left, we were all there at Sam and Patrick's house. We just sat on the rug in the games room, remembering things.
Remember the time when Charlie came to us at the football game?
Remember when Charlie let out the air of Dave's tires at the homecoming dance?
And remember the poem and the mixtape and punk rocky in color? And remember when we all felt infinite? Sam turned to me.
Charlie, I have to pack up some things. Would you stay with me for a while? Why didn't you ask me out when the whole Craig thing happened?
I just sat there. I didn't know what to say. She said it soft.
Okay, Charlie, I'll make this easy. When the whole thing with Craig happened, what did you think?
Well, I thought about a lot of things. And you being sad was much more important to me than Craig not being your boyfriend anymore. If that meant I could never get to think of you that way, as long as you were happy, it was okay. That's when I realized that I really loved you.
Charlie, don't you get it? I can't feel that. It's sweet and everything, but it's like you're not even there sometimes. You can't just sit there and put everybody's life ahead of yours and think that counts as love. You just can't. You have to do things.
Like what?
Charlie, you're missing the whole point. It's like you can come to Patrick's rescue and hurt two guys that are trying to hurt him. But what about when Patrick's hurting himself? Like when you guys went to the park. Or when he was kissing you. Did you want him to kiss you?
I shook my head no.
So why did you let him?
I was just trying to be a friend.
But you weren't, Charlie. At those times, you weren't being his friend at all. Because you weren't honest with him. It's just that I don't want to be somebody's crush. If somebody likes me, I want them to like the real me, not what they think I am. I don't want them to carry it around inside. I want them to show me so I can feel it too. So tomorrow I'm leaving. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to be who I really am. But right now I'm here with you and I want to know where you are, what you need. and what you want to do.
So I kissed her, and she kissed me back. And she touched my knee. That's when I stopped her.
What's wrong? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, don't be sorry.
You're not ready?
I nodded, but that wasn't it. I didn't know what it was. When I fell asleep, I had this dream. My brother and my sister and I were watching television with my Aunt Helen. Everything was in slow motion and she was doing what Sam was doing. That's when I woke up and I didn't know what the hell was going on. Sam and Patrick was standing over me. Sam walked up and held me for a long time. She said a lot of wonderful things. "You're my best friend," was all I could say in return. Sam climbed into her pickup and Patrick started it up and a great song was playing and everyone smiled, including me. But I wasn't there anymore. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's like all I can do is keep writing this gibberish to keep from breaking apart, because I'm starting to feel like what I dreamt about her last night was true, and my psychiatrist's questions weren't weird after all. I know I'm thinking too fast again and it's all in my head like the trance, but it's there and it won't go away. I'm sorry. I have to stop this letter now. But first, I want to thank you for being one of those people who listens and understands. I really mean it. And I'm sorry I've put you through this when you don't even know who I am. And we've never met in person. And I can't tell you who I am because I promised to keep all those little secrets. I just don't want you to worry about me or think that you've met me or waste your time anymore. I'm sorry that I wasted your time because you really do mean a lot to me. And I hope you have a very nice life because I really think you deserve it. I really do. And I hope you do too. Goodbye. My mother and father found me sitting on the couch in the family room. I was completely naked, just watching the television which wasn't on. I wouldn't speak or snap out of it, they said. So they brought me to the hospital where I stayed when I was 7 after my Aunt Helen died. They told me I didn't speak or acknowledge anyone for a week. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in a doctor's office and I remembered my Aunt Helen and I started to cry. And the doctor started asking me questions. But I kind of figured out that everything I dreamt about my Aunt Helen was true. And after a while I realized that it happened every Saturday when we would watch television. The thing that helped me the most though was the time I could have visitors. The time it started to feel like everything was going to be all right was the time when my sister and brother stayed after my parents had left. They asked me a lot of questions about Aunt Helen because I guess nothing had ever happened to them. I don't know. I guess there could always be someone to blame. It's like if I blame my Aunt Helen, I would have to blame her dad for hitting her, and the friend of the family that fooled around with her when she was little, and the person that fooled around with him, and God for not stopping all this and things that are much worse. And I did do that for a while, but then I just couldn't anymore because it wasn't going anywhere, because it wasn't the point. I am not the way I am because of what I dreamt and remembered about my Aunt Helen. That's what I figured out when things got quiet. And I think that's very important to know. So, I guess we are who we are for a lot of reasons. And maybe we'll never know most of them. But even if we don't have the power to choose where we come from, we can still choose where we go from there. We can still do things and we can try to feel okay about them. Maybe it's good to put things in perspective, but sometimes I think the only perspective is to really be there. I was really there, and that was enough to make me feel infinite. Tomorrow, I start my sophomore year of high school, and believe it or not, I'm really not that afraid of going. I'm not sure if I will have the time to write any more letters because I might be too busy trying to participate. So if this does end up being my last letter, please believe that things are good with me. And even when they're not, they will be soon enough. And I will believe the same about you. Love always, Charlie.
Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, venture and get older, and I'm getting older too.
Wow. That was just fantastic. I don't know if it works in the virtual space, but take a bow, Dramatic Society of LSR College. What a lovely piece that was. Phew, I'm sure there are going to be lots and lots of questions that people have, but while we wait for them, this was a piece that all of you agreed on right at the outset. It was something that you absolutely loved, and you wanted to perform this piece. Do any of you want to talk about why for youth empowerment? When we were talking about youth empowerment, what does this piece mean to you as something which is representative of youth empowerment? Mishka, if you'd like to take that.
Sure. I think when we generally think about youth empowerment, we kind of see these big things, big epiphanies, the protests and parties whenever we think about youth empowerment. But for us, I think since the beginning of when we had gotten the project, we wanted something very personal. We wanted these small things, these little revolutions that we have on our own, in our homes, with ourselves. And I think somehow the perks of being a wallflower was what we wanted. We had like a lot of things that was going on. We went through a lot of deliberations to kind of end up on this project. But at the same time, I think the simplicity of these letters, the the acknowledgement of the problems that he's facing, in the end, especially, I think that is very empowering. So I think that what made it the perfect project for us, the perfect production.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting when we talk about empowerment. You're absolutely right. We tend to think of it in terms of the big things, the policies and the big actions and the protests. There's a lot of vulnerability in Charlie, and kind of bringing that out, dealing with that. Do you feel that maybe somewhere Charlie's journey somewhere maybe weaves in this vulnerability, and that's something that you beautifully worked on? So would any of you like to pick that up? Would you like to talk about that?
Just adding to what Mishka said, I think we do associate youth, the age full of energy, excitement. But then again, there are this, as we have seen, like we see these Sams, these Patricks, these Charlies in our everyday lives. But there is this
this baggage of past, which is very dark, the trials and tribulations of youth, which we cannot, simply ignore, because that exists. And I think that is what youth empowerment is, when you exercise that choice of choosing how you want to live. So when Charlie says that we can't decide where we come from, but we can decide where we go from here. So he's ready to participate in life. And I see that's what youth empowerment basically is, to exercise that choice of freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's such a powerful statement, isn't it? I mean, especially in the context of abuse, difficult pasts. This was a difficult text to work with. A lot
Exactly.
of underlying subtexts, a lot of different strands. And I remember having a conversation with you earlier where we were trying to decide what is the story about. So, would any of you like to talk about this journey, and what was this journey about for you?
Uh, should I go ahead? Yeah, so I guess initially when we took up this project, we were in the coronavirus filled world. We were trying to accept that reality, but suddenly when we started working on this, we wiped out everything else that was happening in our life. We sat with the novel for hours and hours, and we tried to contextualize the novel with our own lives. And maybe Charlie's story is 100% not ours, but there's a slice of the novel, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think in every way, each one of us, everywhere in the world, everyone in the world is a wallflower in some or the other way. We might not say might not be a wallflower here, but I might be a wallflower in a different place. So that wallflower aspect is what we wanted to work on. And I think in this entire journey, we found that yes, even in the G meets when we were trying to storyboard the entire thing, because we played with visuals most of the time in this entire project. So then also that we were always sure that whatever we do from the start to the end, we have to keep the wallflower aspect, because that's so characteristic of Charlie, and that's something which is a thin line which I guess brings us and Charlie together. So that's where the novel and me are on the same page, I guess. Anahita would like to take up.
Yeah, just adding on to whatever everybody else has said, I think Charlie also represented his story. And, when you sort of reach an age where you face a lot of things together, that was one aspect of Charlie. And at the end, he represents hope for me, I think, in many ways. There are a lot of little things about him you relate to, his overthinking, his anxiety. But at the end, I think the hope that he gives, that when you do reach a position like this, when you're having a bad patch or a series of bad patches or whatever, in the end, you'll be, especially in youth, there's this hope that I hope I'm one step closer to figuring out things, one step closer to understanding myself better, you know? And I think that is what he represented for all of us. And that is why his story meant so much to us.
Yeah, yeah. So this idea of being a wallflower in our own lives, kind of witnessing our lives from the outside. I guess we're experiencing that more deeply over the last 18 months or so than we have in the past, and definitely that's an interesting perspective. So tell me, when you started to approach this, and of course, I mean, kind of drawing again from the earlier question, how did you choose the themes, and how did you go about choosing the extracts? What were you looking for? This was a novel, and you had to convert that into a dramatized reading. So there was a process of adaptation that you were going through. So were all of you involved in it? Were there like one or two people who were leading it from the front? What were the guiding principles? Tell us a little bit about that.
I think in the beginning it was all of us read the book first, like separately. One thing we always kept in mind was that we're not going to watch the movie, whatever happens. So it was just the book for us. It was our Bible. And throughout, I think The first time we did it was this long excerpts that we had, just the letters, and we were just trying to pick things that we personally liked. And somehow in the next excerpt, that is also what happened, and it just turned out to be really very, very long. I think it was the last excerpt when we chose our battles. That was one thing that we kept saying, that we have to choose our battles because we have a little time limit. So it was, we had taken up this one characteristic of Charlie of being a wallflower and this vulnerable person that is going through a lot in his life. And I think that was something that we followed throughout, and that's how we kind of chose our excerpts in the end. Yeah.
Right, right. That's lovely. We have a question from the audience. So we have Snigdha Mehra, who asks, how did you feel playing these characters? These characters that are close to your lives and yet somewhat distant. How did you feel playing them, and what is it that you take away from them? So, who would like to begin?
Can I start?
All
Sure.
right.
Okay. Firstly, adding from what everybody else also said, Mishka mentioned, and Ayata said here. So, um, it's the vulnerability of Charlie that like brought us close to his character, but also at the same time, it was how he took it all in. It's like a lot is happening in his life, and instead of reacting out, he introspects a lot. Like he's not, he's taking it all in before he reacts to it, which is personally, which is what like I've been seeing how we've been reacting to everything that's been happening for the last, like you said, 18 months. So yeah, it's been like you might not relate to everything that happened with me, but like there's always like a certain extent to how to like something that you related, or like something that you felt connected to in the story. So which is what happened with all of us, like we connected to little bit of him and of every other character. And yeah yeah, Siddhi, you can continue.
Siddhi, would you like to take on the characters? I think Siddhi is experiencing technical difficulties. Hia, would you like to step in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I guess I think Anahita and I can take this question together because since there was a crunch of time and we had to put up this entire thing in a short duration, what we did was that we divided the Charlie aspect of voice and physicality. So the voice of Charlie isn't it's of a different person, and the physical appearance that you saw in the video, that is of me. So yeah, so we worked on like the entire thing was teamwork between me and Anahita because we were constantly talking with each other. Like when I used to shoot, she used to be always there because I have to get a grasp of on what tone she's gonna say the dialogue and on what aspect the entire situation is gonna happen. So for me, that was a combined journey, and I think I'm so thankful that even though this was such a hard task, because Charlie is a very deep character. One needs to do research. One needs to also invest, I think, time on it. But the entire teamwork and the friendship that we evolved over the course of time helped us to build the character. As a whole, it was challenging a bit because the some of the scenes, it was so vulnerable to even shoot the scenes, and when you are doing it all alone in your house, it feels more. You become anxious because some things aren't easy to shoot. I remember Mishka and me, we shot one of the scenes. Um, the I think before the Beatles song comes, the point where Charlie is giving the something record to Sam. Um, we shot it together. I was over Jeannie. She was shooting at her home. Like the laptop was there, and then there's this camera, and then at one point we felt that
there might be digital divide, but the emotion that we felt at that moment, it was so real. I was crying this side and Mishka was crying the other side, and then Anahita comes and she's doing the voiceover. So it was really crazy how we did it, but it was a real team effort. And what I think I might take away from Charlie is that it's sometimes okay to feel things the way I'm feeling. I just need to accept things. Even at this moment, like I think I'm feeling a lot of things. So that is also all right. If I'm excited, it's all right. If I'm nervous, it's all right. And it's really good if one starts writing these emotions, because I think it helps to go back
Engage
and
with them.
I guess, yeah, engage with them. So that is what I felt. Anaita, would you like to complete the Charlie bit?
Can I just add one? Okay, is she gonna? Are you
No, I was
completing?
just about to say I would like to hear more from Susan. We have Charlie's sister with us. We have Patrick and Sam, and I would like to hear what they took away.
Yeah, before we go on to like the bigger like Patrick and Sam's role, I just wanted to add one tiny thing. So like Hia mentioned that it's so vulnerable being in that space where you're rereading the script and you're trying to imbibe all of that, that even for a 1 minute expression that I had as a character, which is Charlie's sister, I felt like a whole wave hitting me, and to bring that out was a real task. And yeah, I just wanted to share that. So
Yeah.
So, like
Cindy?
for
Yeah.
me, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So, like for me, initially, I wasn't very comfortable in doing a gay character. We had this discussion also, me, Mishka, Nahita, and Hia, that how right it is for a straight person to play a gay character, right? But then we had a lot of we had logistics issue. We were only 4 people, and it isn't as if we don't have representation. But again, it's about the choice, that how right it is for a gay character to only play a gay character. So I think we had those discussions, and after that I realized that I personally felt really connected to Patrick. I mean, I like Sam, and I can really connect with Charlie also, but it's just somewhere I could visualize Patrick. I mean, I knew this guy, right? So I think it was fun to do that dress up. I knew how he will dress. He will wear rings. What kind of hair he will have. So I think that part was really fun, and also that scene at Bob's house where Charlie finds out that Patrick and Bob were kissing, and Patrick comes out and he says that, see, I don't want you to tell anyone. And he goes inside and comes back and he makes that face. So that wasn't supposed to be there. It was just a sign to my sister that, okay, the scene is complete, we're done. But Anahita, Mishka, Hia felt that this is so Patrick, we have to keep it there. So I think it was fun. It was really fun for me to do the character. Like my mother was like, "Oh, I have a new son here at my home." It was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lovely moment too. And if I may say, Cindy, Patrick's hair had a character of its own. So yeah, it was very. I think it was very fleshed out very well. So it was really good to see.
Thank you.
A quick word from Mishka before we go on to the next
Sure.
question. Yes.
Okay, so for me, I think from the beginning of the journey, I just told everyone that I want to play Sam. I think this was one character that I remember reading the book when I was 16, 17 years old, and this was one character that I had really connected with. This whole idea of being strong from the outside, but inside having that vulnerability, going through things in life, but still, having that smile on your face no matter what. And I think one thing, to just sum it up, one thing I take back from the character is that things will happen, but I think something good it will come someday or another. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
Manjima, before you take up the next question, I lost my train of thought. Just one tiny thing I wanted to add.
Sure.
So, there's this bit about Susan where she's reacting to a very distant death. Like it's the death of a person that she used to go out with at one point of time and that she doesn't really relate to anymore. And I personally felt like that is very much the situation that we are in right now, because there are deaths happening around us that we personally don't know how to
react off of, because it's not like we are sometimes we are super close to them, but at other times we are not, and it's just dad's colleague's son or it's mom's aunt's friend. And that emotion that it hits you with, which is not yeah, it's very inexplicable, but it also leaves you with a very, very sad aftertaste, is something that I think related to with our situation currently. So
Yeah, thanks, Mohana, for bringing that up.
Can I
Yes,
add
Ishika.
something real quick?
Sure,
Yeah.
Ishika.
So like it was a very small scene that I played of Charlie's sister, and it really, it was a beautiful, vulnerable scene. The way it's presented, it's like this dialogue that's said. It's we accept the love we deserve, we think we deserve, and it's a really big thing. And to think about it, there's so much that happens in life, and like playing that character, it was a very short scene. In that moment, I just felt like, so even if it was just 1 minute, I just felt so connected, because I felt like, you know it's a young girl trying to explain to her parents how much she wants to continue being with that boy, but like everyone around her can see, like, how difficult it's getting for her. And of course it was about abuse as well, and that's again a very deep, big topic. So yeah, heavy topic. So I took, yeah, it was very heavy playing that character, even if it was a small one. Yeah.
No, absolutely, I can imagine. And it is an important thing to consider, isn't it? We all accept the love that we think we deserve. So that's a lot to process, a lot going on into that sentence. And absolutely, Mohana, with you there. I think we have, all of us, gone through different stages of grief, especially in the last couple of months, 3 months, and it's been a tough situation. So we have a question here from Khyati Kashyap, and I think it ties up beautifully with what we've been talking about just now, where she asks, how has the emotional journey been for the team? And of course, here you've already touched upon it a little bit, the distance between you. But, considering the strength of all the emotions that the story held, how has that journey worked out for you? So this is from Khyati Kashyap. And it'd be great if one of you can maybe take that.
Shall I go ahead?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was everybody sort of answered this while explaining what they took away from the characters. I think distance was one thing, and I think at the end of the day, the distance sort of might interact with the way your logistics work and the way you shoot things and how you make sure two people look like they're sitting in the same room. But when it comes to the emotional journey, I think we were still pretty much in the same headspace, all of us, the entire team, because we were reading it together. We were doing everything together. We went bit by bit through each letter, discussing this is what we like, this is what we don't like, this is what it symbolizes for all of us and everything. And even even all when we were discussing the music, the significance behind why we want these three pieces of music to be sung by these three lovely people. So I think emotionally we were still in the same headspace, all of us, and we could very much connect to it. And then distance sort of just bugs you when technology doesn't work.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
adding to Anahita's point, I guess a lot of people might be thinking that we were together. In fact, I got this question from, in fact, James. So, yeah, we weren't together. We are in different parts of the country. In fact, different zones of the country. We just met through Gmeet, and we spent over, I guess, 8 hours, 9 hours, uh, over the course of last few weeks just for this. So everything happened online, and what we were thinking, what we were doing, it was just that screen. And then when we used to go to shoot, and when we used to do internal, I think, introspection, then all those emotional things came in. But otherwise it was just that screen, with four people. I could see Mishka, Anahita, Siddhi, and myself there. And then, yeah, I think we got so used to each other now. After this, it might be quite sad for each one of us.
Yeah, in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are some of you who've never met each other in real life, right? Or have you all met?
We
We
have
have met. We spent
in
1 year
college.
in college together.
Not even 1 year, 1 semester.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
9 months,
1 semester.
9 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Right. So you've spent some time together. That's good. There are, I think, in some of the other teams, there are people who are from second year now who've never met each other in real life. So yeah, that's quite a challenge. But even then, I mean, having met each other 9 months for 9 months over a year ago, and now kind of coming together to do this, so that's quite an experience. So there's a last question, and this is from Punya Rajput, and she asks, she asks, is there any part of the story that you dislike or do not agree with? Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of go around asking each one of you, and you can just answer it in a line. All right. So very quickly, Mohana.
Can we come to me a little later, please?
No. Go quickly off the top of your head. One thing that you dislike.
Dislike. Maybe Patrick using his vulnerability to make a move on Charlie.
Okay, so that moment you didn't agree with. Great. Ishika.
I think it was the scene when Charlie was talking about how he laid down on the sofa watching television and he wasn't really watching it and he was naked. I think that really, it yeah, it really stressed me. So
Okay,
I mean,
but you didn't dislike it.
not dislike it like that. I just I mean, I
Kind
wish
of
it wasn't.
stressful.
I wish it wasn't. I mean,
Yeah, it's very
happening at all.
strong.
Yeah.
It's very visceral, very strong, right? Anahita.
I think I would like, it's not dislike, but I would have liked to see a bit more of Sam's personal journey. We see a lot of Patrick's turmoils and how he's dealing with it from his perspective, but not as much as Sam. We see mentions of it, but I think I would have liked to see a bit more of her arc
Yeah,
overall. Overall.
yeah, that's my grouse too. So you and I share that. Mishka.
For me, I think it's a scene that we didn't put in our the scene where the boyfriend slaps the sister. I think that was a scene where we had a huge discussion about if we want to keep it in the movie or not. But I think the way it ends with her saying that, oh, I was the bully, but it's okay if he slapped me. I think that was a part that was kind of just a little icky for me, I would say.
It's disturbing as well. You don't want to see characters do that in text, but they do it in real life, right?
Yes.
And it's icky even then. Okay. Yes, it is. Agree. Here.
I guess for me, the entire portion where first Sam confronts her feelings and kisses Charlie, and then later when Charlie does the same, she replies back, or she experiences that in a different form. She expects Charlie to react this way, and then the other way when he does the same thing, she doesn't feel that okay. I also like this is the same thing. So that is the way they introspect the same situation in two different ways. Because again, I felt like it's like disrespect to Charlie's feeling at that point of time. So yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Totally get that. Yes. Thank you. Siddhi.
I really can't think of anything. I think I'll agree with Mohana because even when I had to shoot that scene, I was a little uncomfortable because I knew that it's not right. But again, you have a justification that he was very overwhelmed. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not ready to judge or dislike anything in the novel. So I'm pretty okay with everything.
That's a wonderful thing to hear, and I'm so sure Stephen Chbosky would be so happy with that response after all our grousing. But thank you so much, ladies from LSR. This has been a fantastic space to be in and to be able to watch this with you and to have this conversation. On my part, I'd just like to kind of share something for all of you, which is to say that we wanted to do a dramatized reading, and we thought about different ways we could make it interesting, but we never expected this to it to turn out to be this way. So anyone, would you say that this has maybe changed the way you will approach a live presentation? Would it have any impact on the way you approach a live presentation in future? Hoping that you can get back to one soon enough.
Anahita, would you like to take that up? I guess, like until and unless we don't go back to the offline forum, we really enjoyed the process, and I feel it gives more scope to for us to express ourselves. And if we have the camera, why not use it? If we have a phone, why not use the audio recorder? Like combine both of them, use your skill set for editing, and then anything comes out. It's not just about this. Any idea that you have, just take your camera and use your skills. Go to your friends. You can make anything. I guess that's the
Absolutely.
thing I would say.
And physical distance has suddenly turned out to be nothing at all. So it's really wonderful. Especially in, because in theater we always talk about the sharing of energies, and it's wonderful that you were able to achieve just that, even with this kind of physical distancing and despite not having the liveness of theater. And may I say, before we close, a special word of congratulations, Mohana, Ishika, Dhrita, who's not here. The music was wonderful, and of course the novel is completely, it's mediated through music. So I think we all would feel that the final piece would have been the lesser if not for your wonderful vocals and music. So congratulations to you for that. Yeah, absolutely. Big round of applause if this was a stage, but we could still
Thank
say
you
it.
so much. That is so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
so much.
you. Thank you, ladies from the LSR. We were absolutely
you.
privileged to have you here with us. And this is for all you people who are still with us. Thank you so much for your comments, your likes. Do take our survey, a link to which is in the comment section below. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and colleagues. And make sure that everyone gets to watch this absolutely fabulous performance. Do join in American Center New Delhi's Cultural Explosion group to stay up to date on more events like this. Our next event is coming up on August 5th. American classical guitarist Matt Bacon will team up with Bharatanatyam dancers Rofia Ramesh to create a wonderful performance just for you. So please spread the word. Don't miss another wonderful performance coming up. On behalf of everyone at the US Embassy's American Center New Delhi and the Kutum Foundation, have a great evening. Bye-bye. Take care.